Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. It's Project Stopgap again, and we're going to have a look at the fuel tank. It's a D5 tank that I bought sometime last year. I've done nothing with it at all. It's sat in a cardboard box waiting for some attention, and now it's going to get some. We'll get the paint stripped off and find out exactly what's underneath all that red paint. And then the interior is quite rusty. I imagine there's some rust underneath the paint as well, because I could see some flaking and some fairly grotty bits. So we'll get it in the citric acid, get all the rust off of it, and then see what we're left with, if anything at all. Yeah, let's get on and find out what we can find out. Right, here we are, getting on with part one of the fuel tank renovation. This is the D5 fuel tank that I bought back end of last year, and this is for Project Stopgap, our D3, D10, B175. You name it, we're gonna fit it. Our sort of green lane hybrid bike that we're building at the moment. It is fairly rusty inside, so that's going to need taking care of. We've got this rather fetching paint job. You know, it's not terrible. I can feel some sort of slight dents underneath it, but it's all got to come off so we can see what we're working with. We have got some fairly rusty bits and along the seams here, so I don't know if we're going to have any leaks or pinholes. I don't know what's happened here. It's all been sort of scratched up down to the metal, and it's quite pitted here as well, so I'm thinking it's going to be quite rusty under there. But we will see. We'll get the paint off and we'll see. A couple of you have mentioned that you're quite keen to see what's under the paint, as am I. I think it'll be amazing really if there's no filler in this. I'm sure there'll be some filler somewhere, but until we get the paint off, we don't know what we're working with. So that is the plan initially. We're going to be using heavy duty paint stripper. This is industry stuff, automotive paint solutions. As you can see by the warning labels, not particularly pleasant stuff. It's hazardous, flammable, and it's toxic. And we're not going to be using it as sandwich filler. So we will be taking some precautions whilst using that. So I'll run through the safety stuff because I think it would be the responsible thing to do, as obviously this is going out on YouTube. We'll be decanting small amounts into this pot, so that we haven't got huge amounts, exposed at any one time. We'll be using a number of different brushes to apply it so that we get it where we want it and nowhere else. I've got a Scotch pad for the more sort of stubborn corners and areas that we can't get into with the brushes. And I've got an aluminium scraper so we don't damage the tank. And we can get all the blistered paint down onto the newspaper. Covered the bench with a bit of newspaper, which is a good idea because I don't know whether it's going to damage the rubber topping on the bench, and also it's easy to dispose of. We can just fold up the newspaper, bag it, and get rid of it. This is the Wallingford Herald. You don't have to use a Wallingford Herald, although this is science, guys. So if you don't replicate the conditions, I can't guarantee the outcome. So, use your own local paper, but do so at your own risk. Anyway, newspaper on the bench. We're going to use gloves, obviously, protect the skin. I've got my workshop coat on to protect my clothes. And I'm also going to wear face welly. And this is a good face welly. This is a T7 Scott. I've used these for a number of years in industry, and they're very good. They don't pay me to say that, by the way. I pay them because I buy the things and buy the filters. This has had a good check over, and a new filter fitted this morning, which is a A2P3. Good filter, good for what we're using, the sort of volatile organic compounds, and it's good for most particles. Excuse me. Particles, including radioactive, which hopefully we won't find any of those in our tank, but if we do, we're prepared. I'm not going to go through servicing and fitting masks because I'm not an RPE instructor. My good friend Andrew was, and he taught us all how to look after ourselves and keep ourselves safe. My advice is read the instructions, get professional help if you need it, but I heartily recommend that you take every precaution to look after your health when you're using stuff like this. There we go. That's the safety bit done. I'm going to get the window open, the doors open, and get some stuff ready, and we'll start stripping paint. I hope you can hear me. So, fully masked up. Let's get to it. This stuff is working. We've got some white paint under here. We may have found our first bit of filler here. Ew. So we've definitely we've got red paint, we've got a primer, a grey primer, and we've got some white paint as well. And just up here, it looks like there's a dent here. Looks like we've got some filler here, so they've maybe been trying to fill a larger dent. They've put filler here, but they've missed it here by the look of things. But all will be revealed. I'm going to keep scraping, and I'll have another application, and I think we'll use Scotch pad, a fairly biggish Scotch pad, I think, if we can scrub most of that off. So I will bring you back when I've done a little bit more, but as you can see, we're definitely getting. So making some progress. That's our first patch of filler that we found here. That's definitely body filler. But they didn't get all the dent. The dent kind of extends down here a little bit, but anyway, the paint stripper's attacking that as well, so that might come out. But yeah, fair way to go yet, but we'll just keep battering on. Dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. Okay, we're pretty much down to bare metal now. This area here, where the filler is, just got a little bit more paint stripper on there, just to soften that up and get the rest of that filler out. There's a couple of tenacious areas of original paint, found the original paint, or traces of it. The D5 is a 1 year only bike. It was available in maroon or black, and I found some very tenacious black paint, which is the base layer of paint. So I'm guessing this tank came off a black D5. There's a couple of areas I've still got some paint stripper on just to remove those last little bits. And then underneath, it's quite pitted, quite heavily pitted. But I don't think it's penetrated anywhere. Time will tell, obviously. But we need to get all of the paint off so that we can get it into the pickle and get all the rust out, and out from the inside of the tank and from the outside of the tank. and then we'll know what we're working with. But yeah, making some progress. So I'm going to do the other outside half. Then once that's basically down to this level, I'll flip it over and do inside the tunnel, which is a little bit more difficult to access. But we just have to take our time and get it all off. You notice I put a piece of cardboard down now. The newspaper was just it was getting stuck to it, and it was just difficult to work with. So I've got newspaper down. We've got a opened out cardboard box as well, which is proven to be a much better surface to work on. So I'd recommend you do that from the outset. Use a opened out cardboard box if the tank doesn't, the paint stripper doesn't want to stick to it. There we go. Only one area of filler so far, which is good, but we were expecting to find some, so not too bad. Not too bad. We'll see how we progress. Alright, I've got your hand held. It's easier to show you the stuff that I want to show you. What we're looking at here, under the red paint that's come off, we can see black paint and we can see white paint. And this being a D5, 1958 only, fuel tank, they were available in, steady myself, available in two colours, these bikes. Bayard Crimson, which was a maroon colour, and black. And so this must have been a black, or off a black bike, because they were black with a white tank panel. I think what we're seeing here is the remains of the black finish with the white tank panel overlaid. So that's 1958 paint we're looking at there, original paint. And it's a shame it has to come off, but you know, it's underneath all this buckets of red paint, and there's corrosion under the paint as well. We should turn the tank around. Bear with me. Let me just move it. And we'll look at the other side. Get my glove on. Oh, you're probably getting a bit of an odd view, but there we go. Right, so this is the side that we've already stripped. I don't know if you can make that out. There's a dent there, quite a nasty dent actually. Looks as though something's been dropped on it. And that was full of filler, which we've managed to get out. But if you see this corrosion, let me get a close-up for you. What we call filiform corrosion. And it's thread-like. It's an intergranular corrosion. It follows the grain boundary. You can see it runs in little threads, little worm-like threads. And generally you get this kind of corrosion underneath the surface finish, and it will just run and run and run. And that's why all the paint has to come off, because filiform corrosion is everywhere. And yeah, we need to get down to bare metal so that we can deal with it. But there's just a few bits of pink gunk adhering to the side of the tank where I've been moving it around, but the side is pretty much paint free. A few dribbles where it's run over from the side that we're working on now, but so far only one area of filler, which is pretty amazing really for a tank that's, what, 66 years old? Actually pretty amazing that it still exists at all, really, isn't it? I don't imagine it was ever intended to last this long. I think when they made it in 1958, they probably thought, well, probably hoped it had been knackered by 1965, so that you had to buy another one. But anyway, here it is, and we shall do what we can to save it. Another handheld adventure, and that is the fuel tank completely stripped of paint. And it looks pretty scabby, but I have to say it's much better than I expected. We've got that sort of crease and dent there that needs to be dealt with. I hate body filler, so yeah, we'll maybe think about that. Here the underside, fairly pitted, but I can't see any perforation. Again, fairly heavily corroded. Not as bad on this side, but still fairly bad. And the seams are in remarkably good condition. I was expecting the worst at the seams. I thought we'd have some rot and maybe some perforation, but no, pretty good. Not bad at all. There's the fuel tap orifice, which is 19 TPI, 3/8 gas, or British Standard Pipe Parallel if you prefer. And there was an adapter screwed in there. If I can get it back in. Yeah, there was an adapter screwed in to bring it down to quarter gas or a BSPP. So someone's had a quarter fuel tap in there. But I'm going to go back to the 3/8 gas fuel tap, which is what the D5 tank would have had fitted originally. So there we go. The BSA paint, the original BSA paint that I found was very, very tenacious. I'm guessing some sort of an enamel. It was very difficult. Even with the strong paint stripper, it took 2 or 3 applications to get it all off. So there we go. Stage 1 accomplished. Okay guys, this is completely an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work or not. You are looking at the fuel tank through the camera, which is pointed at the screen of my video boroscope. And it's a fairly inexpensive boroscope. I don't have one that I can connect directly to the camera. So whether the filming camera will be able to get enough resolution to pick up images off the screen of the boroscope, I don't know. But anyway, we're going to go for a little journey inside the tank and have a look at the rust and see what we've got to deal with. So hopefully this works and you get a bit of a view of the before rust removal, and then we'll be able to do another one after. So let's give it a go, and if it fails, well, at least we were brave enough to try. So what we're looking at here is directly down from the filler neck. You can see that there's some paint stripper that's spilled in there, so we'll have to rinse that out. And that is the seam between the forward edge of the tank and the tunnel. So you can see a fairly uniform level of corrosion. You can see some scratches there because I've been in here scraping out sort of loose corrosion and vacuuming. So I had the vacuum cleaner hose in there, moving it around, trying to get the loose dust out, shaking it about, vacuuming. Hey, shake and vac. Other carpet cleaning products are available. So now we're moving down the tank towards the rear corner, following the seam of the tunnel. And we can see some sort of black deposits. Oh, can't see anything there. There we go. Some black deposits. They are the remnants of some sort of fuel tank sealing system that someone's used. I need to try and get those out with some acetone or MEK or something like that. That's the top of the tunnel. going over to the other side of the tank and the top of the tank on the inside. You can see fairly uniform rust there. I'm going to go over the tunnel into the other side of the tank, try and pick up the fuel tap orifice if I can. No. Let me just reshape the probe a little bit. You'll see views of my hand. We're going over the tunnel. Not sure if I can get this angle right. Fairly flexible probe, but it's quite tight in there. Well, there we go. Oh, now I've lost it. You just make it out there. There we go. So there, in the very bottom corner of the screen, you can see the orifice for the fuel tap, and you can see quite a large black deposit around that as well, and that's an accumulation of whatever chemical tank sealer previous owner has used. And again, you can see a fairly uniform level of corrosion. I don't think it's coming out in very great resolution, but hopefully you get an idea what we're working with. So there you go. A little experiment. Hopefully it worked. Nothing too much lost if it didn't, but right, I better get doing some cleaning. Get us ready for going for a swim in some acid. I'll crack on with that now. What I'm doing now is you probably hear a swishing sound, and you can probably hear quite a grainy sound as well. And I've got methylated spirits in there, denatured alcohol, if you prefer, depending on where you live in the world. And this is the second sort of flush I've done of the tank. And let me show you what I've been getting out, which will explain that sort of grainy sound. So here's the first flush. I don't know if you can really see in there, the light's not very, not great. But there's gravel in there, small stones. You just sort of see them in the corner there. And what I think has happened is some previous owner has tried to get rid of the rust from the tank, and they've used fine gravel as an agitator or as an abrasive, and they put it in there, obviously sort of swilled it around, and they haven't got it all out. Some of it obviously was remaining, and then they've used a chemical sealant, maybe a 2-part epoxy or something like that. I'm not entirely sure what it is. And what that's done is effectively glued the gravel into the tank. And then I've come along with my methylated spirits and dissolved the sealant. And so now the gravel is free. So I've got to make sure I get all of that out, as well as all the sealant, because we're going to put this in the citric solution, and we don't want any contaminants because they will spoil the chemical reaction. If there's anything in there other than the iron oxide, we'll have a problem. It won't work, or it certainly won't work as well, and it'll contaminate the solution. So tomorrow I've got some acetone coming, and methylated spirits is doing a really, really good job so far. I'm very pleased with it, but I think the acetone will go through it like a dose. I really do, and that hopefully should get any remaining sealant, anything really that's in there, out. And then I think I'll back flush it with a hose, just to make sure that there's no loose particles before we proceed into the citric tank. So that's where I am at the moment. Gravel glued into the fuel tank. They're out there. They walk among us. But anyway, we'll carry on and hopefully. Okay, familiar sight. We're back on the boroscope, and hopefully I've got the camera in a position where you can see what's going on, at least as best as we can manage with this setup. So we're going inside the tank, and this is the tank post sealant removal and degrease with the acetone, but pre-rust removal. So we haven't been in the acid yet, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have done a very good job with all this rust around. So this is the filler neck side. You can see a patch down there. It looks like it's wet, but it isn't. It's just dark. Going towards the back of the tank, over the top of the tunnel. There are some black, sort of darker stains over there, but I'm pretty sure it isn't sealant because the acetone dissolved it everywhere else, so it would have dissolved it on a flat surface. Anyway, let's see if we can look at the forward edge. Yeah, lots of rust. Towards the back of the tank there, on the drain side. Yeah, I think they're just similar patches to down here where it's darker, like this. Well, there we go. Back out again. So, try not to make you seasick. Right, let me switch this off, move the camera, and we'll chat a little bit further. Okay then, next phase of operations will be corrosion removal. We're getting to the fun stuff. We're happy with the clean. All of the paint came off. We've cleaned out the interior of the tank as much as we possibly can. We know there's no oil or grease in there because we used acetone, and the boroscope isn't picking up any obvious traces of old sealant. So I think we're about as good as we can get, ready to take a bath. This is what we're going to be using. Your common or garden citric acid crystals. I buy these online, but you can probably get them local. I'm not entirely sure. Google it and you'll find them, I'm pretty sure. We've got about 1 kilo there, which hopefully is enough to do what we need to do. It depends how much water it takes to drown our tank, but we've got about 20 litres worth of acid there. So we'll be mixing that up shortly. And once we've completed the corrosion removal, we'll be moving on to lining the tank, and this is what we're going to use. We'll chase out the moisture with methylated spirits, give the tank a good dry, and crack on with this stuff. I've used this a few times before and had good results. Tank Fix single component tank sealing resin, made in Germany, and this is 175 millilitres. I nearly said litres. 175 litres would do a 1,000 litre fuel tank, which would be pretty big. I think that would be a long range Bantam. You'd probably struggle to get your legs either side of the tank though, but there you go. So 175 millilitres, enough for a 10 litre tank. So we're going to have plenty to do our tank. And very simple to use. Basically, once the tank is nice and clean, you pour this stuff in, you sluice it around, you get it over every surface. You have to take some pains to get all of the excess sealant out. You don't want it pooling. And then you keep that in a sealed jar. 24 hours later, you do exactly the same again, only this time you leave it for 7 days. And the humidity in the air actually kicks off the curing process. So, as I say, I've used it before and had good results. And the good thing about this stuff is you can use it with premix, two-stroke premix, and some of the other sealants out there you can't. So be aware that not all are suitable for our premix bikes. So that's the sealant, and then once we've done that, we'll be protecting the outside of our tank with some of this stuff. And this is an etch primer. Again, I've used this stuff before. This U-Pol brand I've used and had good results with. And I'm not a paint and body guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a materials guy. My artistic ability with a spray gun is, well, you'll find out it's fairly poor. But as I say, I have done a little bit of painting on motorbikes before, and I've used this stuff to good effect. I find it works really well, particularly on older metals. You know, the acid etch really sort of bites and gets in there, and that's what we'll do. We'll give it a couple of coats of that, and then that'll be the tank done until we come to apply the paint and, you know, put the colour on it later down the road. So what we need now is a BPT, and I've got one here, and I'm just going to move the camera and I'm going to show you exactly. Right, there's the tank then, inside the BPT, which clearly stands for big plastic tub, and you can see that it's more than adequate to drown our tank, and should be just the job really. So on with the fun stuff. As I said previously, we'll mix up some solution. We'll go through the weights and measures, how much we need, and we'll have a bit of a chat about how this process works chemically as well, so that you know how it works, what it's doing, and then hopefully, with a fair wind, we'll be pulling a nice, clean, rust-free tank out of there. There will be a little bit of agitation and cogitation. I'll give the tank a bit of a shake. I'll get in there with some rubber gloves on and just shake it around just to dislodge any sort of stubborn cling-ons, if you like. And similarly, I'll go over the outside with a nice, clean, uncontaminated Scotch pad, again, just to make sure there's no stubborn clinging particles that might readhere or, you know, just get stuck there, really, when we take the tank out. But apart from that, not much more to it. We will be using hot water, probably around about 60 degrees C, you know, sort of tap hot, if you like. And if you have one of those fancy gadgets for keeping the water hot, those aquarium type things with a thermostat on, by all means use it. If you keep the water around about 50 or 60 degrees C, it will work a little bit quicker. But if you haven't got one of those, doesn't matter. Just start off with good hot water and you will get a result. So ever onwards. Let's go get some water. Water, water everywhere. And we're going to chuck a tank in there. So I've discovered that it takes, at least in this container, 40 litres, or just under 40 litres of water to drown a D5 tank. Quite a big tank. And quite a big plastic container as well. So I needed more citric acid, so I've bought some more. So, rule of thumb, 50 grams citric acid per litre of water. So we need 2 kilograms to make our solution in 40 litres of water. So that's what I've bought. So I'm going to mix the acid in, and I'll do that in stages. I'm not just going to dump 2 kgs in there and have a great big mound at the bottom. I'm going to do it in stages and get it to dissolve. And then we'll get the tank in there and we'll talk about how this process works, why it works, and any drawbacks that may exist in doing this procedure. And there are slight drawbacks, but nothing that we can't control, and nothing really that's going to be detrimental to us. I'm going to mix it up with a piece of clean wooden batten, so everything needs to be nice and clean, no contamination, because obviously if we introduce contamination, we're just going to put uncontrollable elements into our chemical reaction, and we don't want that. So we'll start mixing it up, and we'll go from there. So let me grab the acid. I'm wearing my overall coat, and I've got my big green chemical resistant gloves on. Looks like I'm going to do some heavy duty dishwashing. I probably am later. Anyway, at the moment, we're going to mix up a little bit of citric acid. And when I say clean, the better word's cleanish. Clean enough anyway. Let's get in there and start wishy-washying. That's something from my childhood. My brother and I used to go to my grandparents' house. We practically lived there, and there was a big sort of oil drum type thing in the back garden full of filthy water that my granddad used to use for for dipping his watering can in, basically. It was an early water butt, shall we say. And my brother and I used to chuck everything we could find in there, mix it up with a stick, and call it wishy-washy. And there you go. An insight into my deep psyche. Who'd have thought it, eh? Right, that's going. That's starting to dissolve. It helps if the water is warm. I think I mentioned that already. This is warmish. 40 litres is a lot of water. A lot of warm water. You might end up emptying your hot water tank if your house, that's how your house works. Mine does. But anyway, if you've got one of those gizmos with a temperature control that goes in the water, you say you can get it to about 50 or 60 degrees, you will speed the process up. But you, by no means do you need to dash out and buy one, because it will work cold. It will just take longer. Let's get a bit more in there. I'm not going to make you watch this in its entirety. That would make for a really interesting video, wouldn't it? So what I'll do is I'll bring you back when we've got a crystal clear citric acid solution, and then we'll do. Well, we're underway. I've got the solution nicely mixed up, and I've got the tank in there. And as you can see, things are already happening. Don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you can see some small bubbles rising to the surface very, very slowly. Very similar to when you look inside a battery, when you're charging a battery. And that's because that is hydrogen rising to the surface, just like you get in a battery. And when you dunk iron and steel into acid, you get two things. You get hydrogen, and you get a metallic salt. And in this case, our metallic salt is what's causing the solution to kind of yellow and discolor. And it's ferric citrate. And a process called coordination occurs, and that is when the iron ions in the iron oxide basically become disbonded. They're already very loosely bonded because they've been oxidized, and they become completely disbonded, and through this process coordination they combine with the salt base in the acid, the citrate in this case because it's citric acid, and we get ferric citrate, and that gets held in suspension in the acid. And that's the good thing. That's what we want. The only drawback is that there are iron ions in the good steel that we want to keep, and if we have too strong a solution or we leave it in for too long, we're likely to get an etching of the surface. And this is actually made worse. The more metallic salt we get in the acid, the more likely it is to etch. So it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword, really. But as long as we keep an eye on it, we don't leave it in there and go away on holiday or anything, it's sort of quite acceptable, really. And in fact, when I did the D7 tank, I didn't immerse the whole tank. I just filled the tank up with this stuff once I'd cleaned it. And it completely removed the rust, and it did leave a slightly etched surface, which was perfect to allow the resin sealer to key. So to some degree, it's an advantage, but obviously you don't want it to get out of hand. And again, a slightly etched surface on this tank on the outside won't really matter because it's pretty pitted anyway from the rust. So the lesser of two evils. But at some point, I'll be giving this a bit of a agitation with some Scotch-Brite, a bit of a scrub, just to help it along the way, and sort of turn the tank upside down and things like that, just to help the bits fall out. But it's definitely doing what we want it to do. So we'll let it get on with it. Right, time to go fishing for a tank. It has been in there about 6 hours now, and I give it quite a few sort of good scrub downs with the Scotch-Brite pad. There were some quite stubborn areas, but I'm pretty confident that we should be pretty much there now. It's time for it to come out. So let's have a look. First impressions, pretty good. Just empty it out. It's quite heavy. Okay. So overall, outside, pretty good result. Slightly etched, slightly grey, very slightly grainy grey appearance. That's absolutely fine. That will help us when we come to prime the tank. Just looking for any sort of stubborn orange rust that hasn't come off. Tiny little bit in there. Bit of a stain coming up on my finger, to be honest with you. You can put a surfactant in the solution, something like dishwashing soap or something like that. But you have to sort of be aware that dishwashing soap is an alkali, and will slightly reduce, very, very slightly reduce the effectiveness of your mix. But to be honest with you, I don't bother. Yeah, I think we've got off everything that we were going to get off. Don't drop it back in there and get soaked. Let's have a look inside. Oh yeah, that looks spotless in there. But we won't know until we've had the boroscope in there. But I'm really happy with that. So the next job, because it's happening already, is to rinse it off with clean water, and then get the methylated spirits into action, because we don't want any flash rusting. Now, you recall me talking about hydrogen being bubbled through the water. At such a low concentration, I'm not worried about anything like hydrogen embrittlement, and the fact that it's a non-structural component is probably a fairly low-grade steel. I'm not really worried about hydrogen. Hydrogen embrittlement is when hydrogen atoms actually work their way into the lattice of the steel, due to the fact that they're very small, and there's quite, well, on a sort of molecular level, quite reasonably large gaps in the lattice that makes up steel, and the hydrogen can actually infiltrate. And how you get rid of it is you heat treat. You basically put it in an oven for a period of time, and it off-gases the hydrogen. Higher carbon steels are more susceptible. I wouldn't do anything structural in this solution, something like a wheel spindle, even though, to be fair, most motorbike wheel spindles aren't particularly high in carbon anyway. I would shy away from doing anything sort of life critical or safety critical, just in case you do get hydrogen embrittlement. But something like a fuel tank, it's not even a consideration. Wouldn't worry about it. So let me get that cleaned up and chase the moisture away with some methylated spirits, and then we'll get the boroscope out, have a look over at the bench, and it'll be on with the next phase of operations. Right, that's it for this one. The video's got that sort of right length for upload, so we'll leave it there. On the next one, we'll have a look at the tank. We'll have a really good examination, get the boroscope out, and we'll see how good a job the citric acid has done. It's looking pretty favourable, I have to say. I've done this process quite a few times, and it does work pretty well. So we'll do the surface coatings as well. We'll do the interior sealing, and we'll do a coat of etch primer just to keep it all in good condition. Yesterday, I was at Stafford at the Classic Motorcycle Show. Last few years, I've been going with Aid from AG Engineering. Fantastic channel if you haven't checked it out. Aid does very similar stuff to what I do, but he takes it to a completely different level, something to aspire to. So yeah, AG Engineering, well worth checking out. Anyway, we're walking around yesterday and we're looking at rusty old tat as we do, and a couple of guys were kind enough to stop and say hello and say that they follow the channel. So huge shout out to Ashley, who's doing a D7, and to Willie, who's doing an CZ, I nearly said MZ then, it's a CZ125 that he's had for 30 something years. So 2 more 2-strokes for the 2-stroke army. So yeah, great to meet you guys, and good luck with your restorations. I hope it all goes well. Subscriptions wise, I just want to thank everyone that has subscribed. We hit over 1,000 last week, so that's just amazing, really. I never thought it would get this far, but it has, and that's down to you. So thanks very much indeed. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting subscription and ringing the bell, and the very next tank video could be beamed directly to your pocket. So yeah, we'll leave it at that, I think. Mind how you go. I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.